So what was Jacko's youngest son, Blanket, clutching throughout the memorial service? The answer was a Jacko doll.
You're watching The Right Stuff. We're live on 5 with Terry Christian, Kay Adams and author Irvine Welsh. This is his latest collection of short stories, Reheated Cabbage. It's in stores now. Still to come on this show, how long can you love a loser for? Can an ambitious woman enjoy a long and loving relationship with a bloke who does nothing but smoke pot and play video games all day? Opposites attract, they say, but do they? And now, though, we're going to get your verdict on yesterday's Michael Jackson memorial. I know I said yesterday we wouldn't talk about him anymore, but the Right Stuff team insisted. If I refused, I would have found myself all alone in the studio this morning doing the cameras, lights and sound. Anyway, it seems the crew were spellbound by what they saw last night, not necessarily by the emotion of it all. The biggest impact seemed to be the sight of Jackson's children, at least we're told they're his children, weeping on stage. Well, tearful Paris Jackson there, surrounded by her uncles and aunties. So what did you make of that? Some of the team were outraged, actually, that they put his kids through it. If Paris's tears couldn't break my stony heart, there was plenty of other stuff that possibly could. The Daily Mail branded it the tackiest send-off in history, but then I guess you'd expect that from the Mail. But even the Sun seemed less than impressed. A macabre circus, showbiz hack Gordon Smart called it. Upset by Paris's tears, Brooke Shields' rambling speech and Mariah Carey's warbling. And the hand thing. Anyway, I did catch Jacko's brothers, each wearing a single white sequined glove, as Michael used to. I thought that was actually kind of sweet. And then there was Usher, breaking down in tears after touching the golden coffin. No sign of Diana Ross, the woman Michael wanted to care for his kids should anything happen to him. We only got a letter from her, read by Smokey Robinson, who I have to say looks remarkably fresh-faced for a 69-year-old. Go on then, Kay. What did you make of it?
Well, it's not the way I would have done it. I mean, the thing is, it's so far from our experience, isn't it? I mean, you look at it, I watched it open-mouthed. I can't even begin to sort of judge it, because these people are, they might as well have come down from Mars, as far as I'm concerned. Yeah. You know, so by my standards, it's not the way I thought it was dreadful. But then they don't have my standards, and that's not to say who's right and who's wrong. The one thing I did think was, though, that it kind of says to me why these showbiz people are so tortured as individuals, because they can't do anything in life without an audience, without the sound of applause, without public approval. They can't do anything privately, they can't live with themselves. I mean, I think they're deeply insecure people, and that, for me, it kind of put a light bulb moment up as to why Michael Jackson was such a tragic figure, because they're not fully functioning human beings. Fully functioning human beings wouldn't have done that, I don't think.
OK. Yeah. OK. Terry? What do you think?
I mean, I don't know, you know, because I was in the Big Brother house, wasn't I, with LaToya. And as I said, they're very, very sensitive, but she was a lovely woman. And I remember, you know, and people who met Jermaine, you know, said the same about him. So they've obviously been brought up in the right way. When I saw, I mean, I was nearly crying then, just seeing, you know, what was it?
Paris.
You know, Paris, you know, making that speech. Because, I mean, my mum died, what, 18 months ago now? Well, not even that. And, I mean, I couldn't even speak at her funeral. You know, I couldn't speak at my dad's.
Do you think it was
wrong?
Do you think it was wrong to stick her in the spotlight?
Well, kids are strange. You know, it's like when my mum died, both my lads wanted to go to the grandma's funeral. Right. But then as soon as they saw one of my mum's sisters who looked like her crying, they just went and cried all the way through. I think it is a big emotion for a kid at a funeral. For 11 years of her life, she wore a mask, this child, in public. We've never seen this child, and suddenly we see her in an audience of 1 billion people. Well, but I don't know if the kids, because my kids even wanted to go to the grave, so, you know, maybe
the Jackson family have hidden those children from the public for all of their lives with bizarre masks.
But I think you would hide your kids from the public anyway. I mean, you don't see Mel Gibson's kids, you know.
I thought the whole spectacle was
just really, really dark and sinister, and to me, it's like...
And you live in America a lot of the time.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the Jackson family in particular in show business has become kind of almost kind of synonymous now with child abuse. And to me, the thing that the darkest side of that...
Is that the perception in America?
Yeah, well, it's my perception. I'm speaking from myself. The darkest side of that was that this was basically that kid, Paris Jackson's first performance now, and it won't be the last. And now she's under the custody of Joe Jackson, the same guy who Michael said abused him as a kid. And so this is like, and it's like in any other walk of life, this would not be tolerated under any circumstances. But now it's exalted, and it's kind of it's not only tolerated, it's encouraged. And we seem to have this kind of one rule for people in this kind of sort of walk of life, and another rule for the rest of the world. And you know, it's almost like I mean, I think it's all our responsibility. It's almost like we need to see this kind of horrible kind of spectacle as well. And it's not ingratiating. I don't think anybody comes out of this with flying colours at all.
It should be pointed out, of course, people at home will no doubt do it. Of course, Michael Jackson cleared of all charges that were actually put to him, although he did write out an enormous cheque to another lad, Geordie Chandler. That notwithstanding, it's really interesting. I thought, Kay, you sort of summed it up really well for me, actually, there. And Irvin clearly has exactly the same view of things as I do. Let's throw it open to you. What did you make of that memorial yesterday? Kirsty?
First, we've got Kirsty on line
one. Kirsty, good morning.
Oh, good morning, Matthew.
What did you make of it, then?
I found it really fitting, actually. I felt he was a really important part in a lot of people's lives.
Yeah.
And it helped me to get closure on it, really, because I was looking forward to seeing him and very upset when I heard the news. So. Yeah. And I felt that Paris... Yeah. If my son wanted to let everybody know how much he loves his father, she's the same age as her, I don't think I could stop him. I felt that she wanted to.
I know, it's very weird, isn't it? Because you see, I was thinking about sort of my dad losing him, and you think, well, what an intimate thing we had in the crematorium, and then I was just imagining having his sort of coffin here in the middle of the Right Stuff studio, and we do a show where people come up and talk about it on TV. I mean, it would just seem entirely wrong to me, because all the people in that audience, they don't know my dad. They don't know Michael Jackson. You think you do. And there's an English guy they kept interviewing who, when he heard Michael Jackson had died, he left his home in Southampton, got on a plane, flew to LA, had spent a week camped outside Neverland and then the family home in Encino, managed to get a ticket to the show and talked about how it was such a big loss in his life, just like losing his brother. And I'm sitting there and thinking, we're on a different planet. Kirsty, thank you for the call. Let's have another, Kirsty.
Roger's on line 4.
Roger, good morning.
Good morning.
Your take on it?
I thought it was Tacky, actually. And the fact that I couldn't believe Mariah Carey couldn't even sing. I'm just glad Simon Cowell wasn't there, because he would have made some, like on his show, he would have made some comments. But I just thought, yeah, it was really tacky, and how they used a 12-year-old boy, and it's just sad because they're all trying to cash in on his death, basically, and then obviously we're going to get some kind of single release. I
think, Roger, you need to buy a new phone, mate.
Get to bang it.
Yeah, that used to work, didn't it? Bang the phone. When you had trim phones. Anyway, just advice from friends. Thank you for the call. Kirsty, let's have another.
On line 2, we have Richard.
Morning, Richard.
Hi.
Your take on it, sir?
Well, to be honest, I thought it was fitting. You know, at the end of the day, we couldn't see the funeral. You know, at the end, he's a star. Let's just, first of all, he was a star. It's not like Joe Public. So, you're talking about 1 billion people watched this yesterday. That shows how big he is. You know, whether everybody was saw him in a positive light or in a negative light, people still wanted to see it. So they had their memorial. I think the press and everybody else expected a circus, and what they got was a memorial service. Who's ever heard of a perfect memorial service? You've got people full of emotion having to go and sing. So I excuse Mariah Carey. On another day, she'd have sung that song perfectly. And anybody else? Jermaine was struggling. Usher was struggling. You know,
Richard, what did you think of the timing of it?
Because they didn't get what they expected.
Richard, what did you think of the timing of it? Because as a memorial, to be honest, 4 months later, I could have taken it as a memorial and not had any great sort of unease about it. But just so soon, on the day of a funeral,
with the coffin on stage,
on stage, that's what I was uncomfortable about.
Well, I guess it was a public funeral service, so to speak, without the burial. You know, they had the private one in the morning. The fans wanted something. You know, he's the most, since 2 weeks, for the last 2 weeks, his name's been spoken about by everybody. You know, as I said, negatively or positively, his name's been spoken about. The fans are still mourning. I was heartbroken from the news. I was happy to see it. What I saw yesterday, I was expecting something more spectacular, and I'm glad it wasn't.
I mean, there is a certain amount of snobbery, I think, in all of this, because nobody talks about how tacky a lot of the whole Lady Diana funeral was, which I thought it was. And yet here you've got Michael Jackson, who's possibly the most famous black person who ever lived on the planet. in a lot of ways. I mean, you can talk about Mandela and all the rest of it, but this guy, you know, everyone knows who Michael Jackson is.
Well, everyone knows who Myra Hindley is, and I'm not...
No, they don't. Not in China, not in India, not in Australia.
I am not putting them in the same bracket at all, but what I'm saying is fame itself is not necessarily a great thing.
But what he was famous for was his music.
People were putting him in the same bracket as Martin Luther King.
No,
now,
I mean,
come
it's
on.
for his music, you know, and let's be honest.
Listen. Enough.
There was a guy who said he was...
The crew is here, right? I've done my bit. They're not going to walk out. OK, it's done. Let's move on. Or as Mariah Carey would say, let's move on. What do you think? I'm going up and down. OK, after the ads, I think this is fascinating. It's a true-life dilemma. How long can you love a loser? They say opposites attract. That doesn't necessarily mean they're going to stick together, does it? So can someone who is ambitious and driven enjoy a long-term romance with an unemployed stoner? 0207 173 5555 is the number of your thoughts. Some of my friends will be sitting at home at the moment thinking, oh my God, he's talking about me. Maybe you've been in just that situation. What happened? Did you think they'd change? What if they don't? How long can you love a loser? You tell me in 3.
Which of these qualities do 14 to 19-year-olds consider the most attractive in a potential partner? Ambition, confidence, or a sense of humour? Find out after the break.